Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we've got to dive into a deeply tragic, breaking news story coming out of Amarillo, Texas. Look, I know it's a really heavy subject, but we're going to walk through exactly what we know right now, keeping our focus squarely on the established facts. Figuring out the exact sequence of events here is absolutely crucial as both the community and law enforcement search for answers. Let's get into it.
Okay, so we really have to start with a number that just hits you right in the gut. 12. This figure represents the total human toll of this weekend's events. We're talking about two teenagers, just 16 and 17 years old, who tragically lost their lives. And on top of those two young lives cut short, 10 other individuals were injured. Now, the authorities haven't released the medical conditions of the wounded just yet, but man, that single number of 12 casualties really emphasizes the immense scale of this tragedy for the local community.
To understand how this all unfolded, let's establish exactly where and when we are. The setting was an apartment complex situated right near Interstate 40, which is roughly 6 miles west of downtown Amarillo. The time? About 2 a.m. on a Saturday. This is the middle of the night at a residential complex where people should have been totally safe in their homes, or maybe just enjoying a typical weekend gathering. Instead, in an absolute instant, that normalcy was shattered, and this specific spot became the center of an active, deadly police investigation.
Now, tracing the timeline here reveals a really chilling sequence of events. According to police reports, this conflict actually kicked off earlier in the evening at a completely different location. The suspects were at another party, but they were asked to leave. So from there, they traveled over to the apartment complex we just looked at. At roughly 2 a.m., they arrived. And then literally mere moments later, the situation escalated into sudden and deadly violence as they opened fire.
And we actually know a bit about what those terrifying moments looked like, thanks to surveillance footage released by the authorities. The video shows two suspects opening fire directly at the outside of an apartment. What follows is, tragically, exactly the kind of nightmare you'd expect. Immediate panic. Yelling and screaming ensues. And then, the video captures even more gunshots ringing out into the night. It is a chilling, totally objective record of the terrifying moments just as they were happening.
To truly grasp the human reality of that night, we need to look at what the people living there actually experienced. I want you to take a second and consider this account from a neighbor, Philip Thrasher. He told reporters, "When I looked outside and came outside, it was complete chaos. There was kids running everywhere, just screaming and running. They didn't even know where they were running to, And then moms and dads showed up and came to their kids' rescues, the ones that could. The ones that couldn't were so upset. There was nothing you could do. It's just heartbreaking, isn't it? You have children running, absolutely terrified, and parents arriving, desperately trying to rescue them in the chaotic aftermath. It's a profound reminder of the deep trauma this leaves behind for the whole community."
And this brilliantly illustrates a critical dividing line in the investigation right now. It's the gap between what authorities already know and what they still desperately need from the public. Police Chief Thomas Hoover confirmed that the suspects do have an affiliation with the targeted location, and they were actually known to one of the occupants at the party, so we know this wasn't entirely random. However, here's the catch. They urgently need the actual identities of these two suspects. They're urging local residents to check any doorbell or surveillance cameras for any unusual activity around that 2 a.m. time frame to help piece this giant puzzle together.
Now, here's a detail that provides some crucial context and honestly makes the whole situation feel even more devastating for the community's sense of safety. Police Chief Hoover noted that the department had already increased patrol staffing in this exact area. Why? Well, because of separate, highly publicized shootings that occurred just weeks prior, on March 22nd, which claimed 6 lives. So, despite this heightened alert, and despite the actively increased police presence intended to protect the neighborhood from that previous violence, this new tragedy still managed to unfold. It's a really sobering realization of how quickly violence can strike despite preventative efforts.
Which leaves us staring at the unresolved reality of this entire investigation. Who are these two suspects? And what could possibly be the motive for opening fire on a weekend party? As the Amarillo community grieves the immense loss of two teenagers and prays for the recovery of the 10 injured, these questions remain the central focus. What is it going to take to bridge the gap between what is known and the justice this community so desperately needs? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, guys. Keep your eyes on the facts as this story continues to develop.